Okay, this should be our last segment here. What I'm going to do is now I'm just going to smooth this piece out. I'll show you a couple extra things you can do with this real fast, and then we'll go on to some other videos later on. You're going to notice you have some ruffles here in the panels, okay? If you want to shrink those ruffles out, you can shrink with a planishing machine. Basically, it's like stack shrinking. We're going to go back to leaving our airspace here. I'm going to back the machine off so we get airspace about the thickness of the metal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in there and I'm going to pull backwards, and I'm going to pull backwards, and I'm going to pull backwards. And what that's going to do is going to force the metal back into itself, but it's not going to thin the metal. And it's actually going to cause the metal to shrink. Now I'm just going to smooth out the rest of the piece real fast. Here we are, going to go to a shrink again, going to pull in and pull out. It makes like a V. What you want to do is come in the back of the V and push down the middle. See how we knocked it down? Now I'm just going to tighten this up just a little bit. There's a little bit of throw in the hammer. I'm going to go to about half the throw in the hammer. Okay? You can usually do this by sound, you can hear it, but unfortunately on tape it doesn't come out that well. So I'm going to tell you what to look for. Now what we're going to do, we're going to turn it down. Another thing too is if you notice, you'll see my hands are relatively loose in here. Too many guys try to get in here and try to wrestle with it. If you go to right or to the left, you end up getting grooves in there, because if you're holding it high, you're going to get grooves in this thing because you're going to rock it either way. Just leave it loose. If you're going to wrestle with this, you're working too hard. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. We got this relatively smooth. I could spend a couple more minutes, but why be repetitive, okay? Now say you want to add a little contour to your outside edge. I'm going to show you a little trick. We're going to take this and we're going to put the die up so it just barely touches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this metal this way, right up against the dolly, okay? And what it's going to do is going to form the end over. So if you're going to do something where you're going to bring a radius over a little bit, you can actually do it this way. What I'll do is I'll move this way so the cameraman can see a little better. See how we just started getting it over? Now see how much more we were able to roll this over. I can keep walking this further back and further back and further back, or use a high crown die, which is like in this machine here, which is a 3/4 inch round, and you can keep bringing this over and over and over. If you find in a couple areas it wants to stick up, it's nice to go to a shrink and stretcher. Now, when you're working with metal, especially when you're using a planishing hammer, this is hammer on dolly. The outside edge is going to get really, really thin. I usually tell people, if you're working on this stuff, whatever panel you're making, the last 3/4 of an inch, make it bigger. Then make the panel 3/4 of an inch bigger than what you want it for, then trim it off. Because you're going to find that sometimes you get this thing so thin that it'll actually cause the metal to split. That pretty much sums up this little machine. I'm Norm with Performance Metal Shaping. This is a Mittler Brothers machine. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, contact Mittler Brothers or contact us. We'll walk you through anything that you need to know about it. Thank you very much.